please welcome Microsoft CMO AI at work, Jared Spataro, Unilever's Global Head of Digital, Media and Commerce for Beauty and Wellbeing, Selena Sykes, and from Clifford Chance, Global Operations and Business Transformation Partner, Jessica Littlewood.
Well, thank you, everyone. We're so appreciative of you joining us today, and we've had a good time together, but I'm really excited about this session. You just heard our two special guests, and I want to thank Selena and Jessica for being here. Thank you very much. You saw them being movie stars up there. We've talked quite a bit today about this idea that AI can help with personal productivity. It can help with business process, but we've done so at a fairly high level. So I'm very excited with these two special guests to talk more about the details, about what this all means. And it's just fantastic because Unilever and Clifford Chance really are on the cutting edge of using AI. So we're going to start out just a little bit personal. And maybe, Selena, I'll start with you, and then we can go to Jessica. Same question. I want to start just by asking, as you look at Copilot in your personal use, kind of your day-to-day at work, tell us a little bit about how you use it, what's been good. Maybe tell us about any limitations that have come to you. And over to you, Selena.
So what I was saying to Jared behind was that I love Copilot because it's part of what I do every day. I've been using Outlook and Word and all the apps for a long time, so it's a real seamless experience. And I think particularly at the moment, I'm loving using Copilot to help me prioritize when I haven't been in the office, when everything's, my inbox is overflowing, my chats are overflowing, and it really effectively helps me say, where shall I put my attention on first? And it does that beautifully, so I really enjoy that. You asked about limitations. I write so many PowerPoint presentations, and I really want to start using Copilot more. So maybe I need to learn more, but I definitely would love to see what Copilot can do, helping me with that part of my job.
Awesome. You know, just a quick plug. We are doing a lot of work on PowerPoint and Narrative Builder in particular. If you haven't had a chance to check that out from about a month ago, is something that should help you out
I'll check
lot.
it out.
I'll also say one other thing. You know, as I think about Copilot being woven into day-to-day work, having to go to Copilot Chat, for instance, to manage your emails. We'll hear this from Jessica in just a moment because she was talking about this. We want to really bring it into the email inbox, and this idea of prioritize my inbox that I could talk about in just a moment, that could help. But Jessica, how about you? We were talking about this backstage as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to largely agree. For me, lawyers, we live and breathe an Outlook. I mean, it is just the heart of everything we do. This is a great example. I'm here today. I'm not in front of my inbox. I'm a very busy person. I'm a frontline client-facing partner. I have a very busy practice. I also have a management role leading digital transformation and transformation generally within the business. I'm also a mum. I have 4 kids, so I am a busy person. I'm going to go back to my inbox now, and there's going to be, I don't know, 600 emails, I reckon, I will have, clocked up since I've been here. And I really will use Copilot. I will ask them to prioritize for me. I'm looking for that, Houston, we have a problem on a deal, and I want Copilot to help me find that email, and I will use it in exactly that way. So at a personal level, it really is productivity, sorting through volume. There's just so much volume, so many emails, and that's what it's great for.
Fantastic, fantastic. So prioritize my inbox. If you haven't seen it yet, there's some great demos out there. It's not yet in market, but it actually is integrated into the product. We'll read your emails, the 500 emails that Jessica's getting, and then we'll actually start to prioritize it, literally giving its view of kind of what it thinks is most important. Also say just a quick plug, man, wouldn't it be nice if Copilot could start to become some sort of automation platform where you could ask it to alert you when certain things came in. There'll be more on that maybe later in the conversation, so we'll talk a bit more about that. Okay, Jessica, we'll start back on question 2. We started personal. Now I want to pop up for a moment and talk about function. You do have a very demanding job. I was very impressed and thought, man, I couldn't keep up with that when we were talking earlier. In your function, as you look at the processes that are important for you, what are some places either that you're already starting to use AI, Copilot, and some places you would like to use it, in the future?
So I'm going to talk about this in my role as a client-facing partner rather than any of the sort of other side of Clifford Chance, the back office, I hate that term, but So I think sometimes there's a perception that as lawyers, we are technophobes and we don't use technology, but actually that's really not true. We're really at the cutting edge in processing text-based data. And we always have been. I mean, I'm very old. When I started at CC, a lot of my job was literally feeding a fax machine, and that was a limitation on how quickly we could do work for our clients. Now, if I look at the increase in productivity since I've been working, and really Copilot and AI is just part of that journey, it's clearly going to increase our productivity. It's going to take out the parts of the business that nobody went to a great law school to do some of the really boring admin. I mean, they really didn't. I didn't go, none of us went there to fill in blobs in a document. So it's going to take out some of that less interesting work, making us more productive. I think the other side of that equation is that obviously we are employed to be rigorous and precise and perfect. Mm-hmm. They make movies about when the lawyer got the decimal point in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be absolutely precise. So we see these tools as a sort of a second pair of eyes. We're not at the stage yet where AI is going to do the legal work, but it's going to be our expert assistants. It's going to help us deliver that work. So we see people using it. I mean, we've talked about productivity. You can see it being used for legal research, but it's like a first draft. It helps us get there quicker. Similarly, you might be putting a memo together, and you've got that sort of cursor blinking at you. I've got to write something down, and it's a great way to create that first draft. You can pull other memos together saying, I need to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and can you put it together, give me a first draft. So that's where I see it in the legal function. If you pull the lens wider and you look down the track, sure, you can see lots of automation and lots of ways we might use this. I don't think we're there yet. But I go back to we've had this sort of trajectory of using technology to become more productive, to run faster with our clients, to deliver things more quickly and more perfectly. That's sort of where I see it in my function as a client-facing lawyer.
Boy, that framing is really good. Selena, how about you?
Yeah, so I work in the marketing part of Unilever. Agree, there's a whole host of business opportunities that you can see the benefits for. But I think in marketing, we've got to move at the speed of culture. We've got to really be with our consumers, understanding what they want at any moment, and trying to get a large organisation and a large number of marketeers, like we have in our company, to be able to do that in a really efficient way. AI holds so many of the keys for us, and working with Copilot. The key areas that we really want to look at is some exactly the same, what's the operational noise, the kind of routine tasks that are just bogging people down, and if we can just turn the volume down on that, then you can turn the volume up on your kind of humanity. So what are the aha moments that you see? What are the consumer insights? Can I spend more time understanding communities and how we can help serve them better? So yeah, it unlocks productivity by reducing the amount of time you spend on those tasks, but it also gives you a whole lot more time to do the things that we should be doing, like getting closer to our consumers.
Yeah, I really like that. At Microsoft, we've been tracking telemetry, just trying to understand how the nature of work has been changing over the last couple of years. We really started in earnest during the pandemic, and we found that the amount of time that people are spending on kind of the core part of their job is actually shrinking. That won't surprise you and me because we feel it. But at this point, we would estimate that people spend up to, some even more than 60% of their time doing stuff that we'd call kind of coordination overhead that is required to actually do the real work. And that can become quite taxing, And so if Copilot can help us get back to the stuff that we were paid to do, the stuff that we enjoy doing, it could make a difference. Now,
Sorry, just to jump in, we've also found it very interesting that if we look at this from a wellness perspective, we're finding that people who are really using Copilot in their day see a stress reduction. They actually find it's actually, we work in a high-performance environment, it can be very stressful, and if you measure people's sort of stress, I don't want to suggest that we're doing statistically significant, but we really do think that we're seeing a reduction in stress by people using these tools to do the bits of the job they probably don't like so much.
Yes.
It's sort of interesting. We didn't think we were going to see that.
Fantastic. It does remind me of one other thing I feel like I've learned in the last 18 months I didn't expect, and that was when you see people who are using Copilot effectively use it. They can save 10, 20, 30 hours a month. but we don't always see that translate directly onto the company's bottom line. You know, like you can't take that and extrapolate. And when we went to interview people, we asked them, what's going on? Like you save so much time. They actually pointed, interestingly, to well-being. And they said to us, we pocket some of that time that comes back to us because we all have stressful jobs. And that's, I think they should. Companies don't like that very much, it turns out, but I think they should. Now, before we go to our next question, one of the follow-ups that you made me think of is, you both are champions, you both are kind of in some ways super users. Do you find kind of the anti-Selena, anti-Jessica out there, people who are not at all excited about Copilot, who kind of are real skeptics, or what's it been like, in your culture, right?
I think you're right. Like, a lot of this is about mindset. Like, I love this phrase that it's like, businesses don't transform, it's the people inside them that transform. I love thinking about that, and you're right. There are some people that find that transforming themselves harder. I haven't heard anyone explicitly say they're anti it. I don't know if that's a good thing to say that you're anti it at the moment, but I hear a lot of kind of skepticism about the tech and what the tech can do and the limitations of the tech today. And I think I always try and explain the tech will catch up. Like, it's going to get there, don't worry. It's about how we're embracing it now. So I see that part of it. And then I see the other side where it's almost like people are so busy and so stressed, they don't want to lean in and learn, which I think links back to showing people the benefits of if you just prioritize this, you would be able to find that space and that time. So it's those two kind of things that I think are holding us back in transforming people to be part of this.
Very good observations. We see that in the research. Jessica, anything there to add?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure I can find a lawyer at Clifford Chance who's anti. I mean, I can probably find a lawyer at Clifford Chance who doesn't have a computer on their desk, but that's our guilty secret. So, sure, we're never going to get to 100% of sort of AI evangelists, but we see a sort of viral side to the use of AI and Copilot, which is people literally tell their friends.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Somebody says, I use it for this, and it's like, over a coffee or something, and they'll show their friends. So you don't need the same sort of formal, get locked in the basement for IT training, which,
Yes.
Nobody ever attended and sort of ran away from. This is this sort of discussion over coffee, and we're finding that the trajectory is coming up. Often when we've introduced technology in the past, there's been an uptake, everyone's interested, and then you see the curve come down, and everyone's like, yeah, okay. Now, on our use of AI, we're about 60% regular users of the firm, and that number is going up rather than down. And I think we're going to get to 100%? No.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get well north of 80+%.
Yeah, well done. Just think for a moment, because I'm going to ask you a little bit more about those adoption techniques. That's my next one. But some of the research we did found that there was this kind of initial enthusiasm amongst almost any cohort that takes on Copilot. They use it for a couple of days, week, 2 weeks, and then they, interestingly enough, forget about it. And when we ask, forget about it, what do you mean? The muscle memory associated with doing the tasks of people's jobs, if you've been in your job 5, 10, 15 years, is so strong that it's easy to forget. So the research, I'm not making this up, but the research says that it takes about 11 weeks of consistent use to make it a new habit, and that an individual has to see about 11 minutes, what they would estimate, they gave us kind of written things about it, 11 minutes a day that they felt like they were saving in order for them to say, yeah, I'm going to stick with this. So whether you take that 11 by 11 as fact or more just as pattern, there has to be a consistency, and then there has to be some recognition amongst the individual, that, hey, this is doing something for me. So I think that's interesting. When it comes to adoption in your firms, how have you approached it? It sounds like there's been a social component to it, Jessica. How do you do it?
Yes, so, you can imagine we're a law firm, so we started with the sort of guardrails. We knew our clients would be quite concerned about how we use AI. So before we rolled it out, we sat down and wrote some AI principles. We're very lucky. We have a great team of tech lawyers who helped us put that together. We've published it. Anybody can see it on our website. So we put those guardrails in place. Then we did a more practical policy to say to people, how can you use it, and where might you want to be more cautious in the use of AI, data protection, those sorts of limitations that we have. And then we rolled it out to everybody. We made that decision that we would roll it out to absolutely everybody in the firm in order to encourage adoption. As I said, we're about 60% and rising. And then we can talk about this more a bit later, but we've been using a sort of bottom-up approach and a top-down approach in terms of how we then regulate that use. But I think we found that sort of the principles and the policy really helped, and people had confidence, like, okay, I'm allowed to use this. Am I going to get in trouble if I use this? Will my clients not like it? We've done all that work for people, and so, I should not have done that. I use my hands a lot when I speak, and it's a bad thing with microphones. So that was really important for us, that we ended up with those guardrails, and then people felt confident. And then, as I say, we've got this sort of viral, more and more prompts are being shared, more and more, how do you use it? It's great.
Very impressive. Selena,
Yeah,
how did it go at Unilever?
I think it's completely right. We've got quite a clear strategy that we built. It's called Go Wide, Go Deep. So the Go Wide was, where are the applications that you can have every day, and everyone should be using those, so kind of doing that. And then Go Deep is where we really looked at our whole end-to-end about where could we really understand how we could find opportunities to make huge impacts if we completely reinvented things. So it's a different approach. And exactly the same. I think it's so important that you have I think ours is called the AI Collective. So we have like a group of people who are constantly looking at the changes, how everything's moving, making sure that we've got a set of really clear approved tools, got clear guidelines, use cases, etc. So people don't need to think about that, and they can just start playing around, learning, having fun with it.
Yeah, I particularly liked you in the video because I felt like you had a lot of enthusiasm for how AI was impacting the business.
Yeah, it is.
Selena, could you tell us a little bit more about where are you starting to see the impact for your marketing processes, for the things that you do?
Yeah.
Where is it starting to show up?
Yeah, so you saw the example that we talked about, which we're calling smart briefing. So if anyone here is a marketeer or knows anything about marketing, you'll know that it all sparks from the brief, because that's where you get all your insights into a document and you hand it over to normally an agency, or it could be anyone who's going to bring the creative strategy, the media strategy to life. So that's how we impart our expertise to build our marketing plans. And it can take up to 30% of your time just writing briefs. And what was so interesting when we got into this is I knew from being a brand manager myself how many documents need to open to find data, how many different systems I need to log into to get data points to put in, where I need to find all my brand assets. It's just so much pulling together information to just write that brief. Then there's the collaboration, because you don't do it by yourself. You send it to your boss, you send it to the insights department, you send it to your agency, and all of that's on emails and meetings. And I knew all of this, and I knew that the smart briefing idea was a great one, because we're ultimately looking to automate and streamline all of that into a kind of AI-led process. So I knew it would be good, but what we've seen is we've done the experiment now, and it's a 42% time saving, which you kind of expect. It would definitely be a time saving to have a smart briefing facilitate that. But what was most interesting is we did a kind of A/B test, a control group and a group using it. And what was really shocking was seeing how the control group that were not using the tool, how horrible they found the experience. And this is something our marketeers were doing all the time. And we'd never done a sense check of how hard do you find that? And it was such low scores. And then obviously the ones that were able to use the AI, there was a 91% uplift in their kind of experience of that. And as improving our marketers' experience of their jobs is definitely going to improve the output of their work, which is going to improve what we give our consumers. So that is why I'm so enthusiastic, because I think opportunities like that are huge for our business.
Yeah, but I'll make a note for all of us. It wasn't just that something changed. You measured it. You had a control and treatment group. I mean, have you ever done anything like that before, or is this new?
We do a lot of product testing, so we obviously make sure all of our products are so fantastic, but not in testing that in that way, how people work and how we can improve how people work.
Yeah, that's what we have found. I was trying to tease it out a little bit. What we found is this is introducing a new approach to knowledge work. Satya would call it kind of the lean methodology now applied to knowledge work. So much of knowledge work is just sloppy, frankly. It just sloshes around. And this gives us, for the first time, I think, the tool set that we'll need. Now, it's an embryonic, just developing, emerging tool set. But our prediction would be at Microsoft that increasingly you'll see what Selena did. There will be this, hey, let's try this. Oh, wow, there is a savings. Now let us figure out how much better it is. And that's not going to quit when you roll out smart briefing. And I think you'll continue to really try and tweak that. That's exciting. It's really good. Great. Jessica, how about you?
We've seen Very, very similar, and we've also done the control test. I have to say, in our control test, the one who weren't using AI actually cheated and then just said, okay, I'm just...
This is true.
They just cheated and just said, okay, this is so bad, we're not going to do this anymore. And
they then went to use the AI, right? They said, I'm going to do it with Copilot no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. They were just like, clearly this is a waste of my time, so I'm not going to do it. So there was a revolution in the control test, which was not quite what we wanted. I mean, we see enormous sort of use cases, and they are so much quicker. So, I mean, we do things like witness statements, and you have to create a chronology from that witness statement of, who was where and who said what to whom, and you can put that into Copilot, and it will create that timeline for you very effectively. That is a lot of work of somebody sort of going through and mapping that and it's something that's so perfect for AI. I mean, it's it's so logical, it's easy to do. Another example is, as lawyers, we have to keep timesheets. We have to literally note down how we spend our time minute by minute so we can invoice the clients. Some of this is court mandated, we're required to do it. So on a big matter, you can have hundreds of thousands of time entries, and then the client is like, well, how have you spent my money? What have you done? So if I dump on them 300,000 time entries, they're like, what is this? So we can now upload those into Copilot, and it will create a summary of how we've effectively spent the client's money. What have we done? How many hours were we in meetings? How many hours did we spend drafting documents? That process used to take, so long to create that from hundreds of thousands of time entries, and now we can do that automatically. So that's just an enormous time save.
Wow, I love it. Thank you. Really good specific examples, really nice. I'm going to go off script for just a moment, so if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. We'll go to the audience. But today we introduced this idea of autonomous agents, and even internally at Microsoft, there's this thing of like, wow, that's a step forward. Copilot essentially is human in the loop. Human is always going to be there. This autonomous agent is, the agent's going to go off, do some work, it reports to a human. What do you think about that idea? Is it like in a law firm, you kind of think, I don't know about it, but...
So, I very much enjoyed today, and I've been thinking about our approach. As a lot of it is about making individual people more efficient or more productive in terms of email management or something. But there's a huge another part, which is where these agents come in, where we're looking at end-to-end processes, and we're going to think, how do we do that more efficiently? And that's where an agent's going to come in. And whether that's a piece of legal work that you might ask it to do, or getting your bills out on time, or your timesheets, or all of those, I think we will see those agents doing that for us. And I think the other thing about the agents is, it may not get you to the end. It may get you 70% of the way, and then the lawyers come in and put that overlay of expertise and wisdom and client-facing, nuance. But actually getting you 50, 60, 70% of the way there is incredibly, incredibly impactful.
Yeah,
so I think we'll use those agents, and I think we'll see them. We have a marketing function too. I'm sure that they will, and we often do pitches to clients.
Yeah.
We might pitch to clients the same client, so bringing some consistency in how we pitch to Microsoft, or how we, if we're doing a data center financing, let's use relevant terms here, what is our experience in data center, and pulling that all together. You can see an agent going into all of our previous pitches and pulling that together and saying, here you are, here is the perfect pitch to pitch a data center to Microsoft. That's the sort of where I can see we'll see those agents really being very powerful.
Yeah,
very valuable.
I really agree with you there. I think it's the word autonomous. It's like, where's the autonomy? And I really like how what we're seeing now is like it assists you to become better. It's always assisting you to become better, and there'll be tasks within that can be autonomous to assist you to get better, but it's where do you start, where do you finish? And I think looking at everything as an end-to-end and seeing where we can utilize technology to really help us the best will be what's critical for us into the future.
Very good. This whole room is going to help us shape this next chapter, but we kind of think of it this way. In the mobile era, what you ended up having was a smartphone that people had that was tied to them. It was a very personal device, and apps are what made that smartphone ultimately incredibly valuable. Everybody loaded up the apps that they needed for their personal and work life. It became a very personalized environment. Well, our answer to that, we believe, in this era will be a Copilot for every worker of every type, and then agents that will be used and orchestrated by the Copilot to get the work done. So that's kind of the basic view. You're going to help us define that, but it's exciting to introduce those capabilities.
And I think one of the problems sometimes with technology is it's like one size fits all. Do you take an enterprise decision to roll out X to, not that X, but something to your whole firm? Whereas the agents you can deploy much more selectively, so that's, I think, where the agents that I might have could be completely different to what you might have or Selena might have.
That's right.
And that's, I think, very attractive because some of these things, people have very, very different roles in large organizations.
And I think it's really important for all of us to really think about very intentionally, like exactly to your point of like, we probably haven't thought about how our businesses operate for a long time. They've just happened. So us all thinking about what's really happening in our businesses and where do we want to deploy these technologies and being super intentional about it to find the efficiencies, to find the unlocks. That's going to be, I suppose, the task that we need to do to make this work.
Wonderful. Okay, it strikes me we're 18 months out, a little bit, if we calculate from when we introduced the world first to Copilot, about 2 years from ChatGPT, if you think about that. And we've got some very concrete examples of how things are being used. And I think it's fair to say you're on the cutting edge here. We have a group of folks here who have attended. We appreciate you being here. But I think one of the most useful things we could do is have you just reflect for a moment on kind of what advice you have. As you think about your journey so far, what have you learned that you wish you would have known when you started? What advice would you give to yourself going forward, to the folks in this room? How do you think about that? Because we are all on this journey together, just at different stages, and I think you're out ahead of most of us.
I think for me, it goes back to what I said about like people transform, not businesses. And the biggest thing I've learned is to have a learning mindset. Like you have to have that in so many things, but ultimately for something like this, you've got to it's constantly moving, but you've got to constantly rethink the paradigms that you're programmed with, and we're all conditioned because of the experiences we've had. So that unlearning, that real, like going, am I holding us back here by some of the kind of mindsets that I have? So trying to be really self-reflective of like what's holding your business back, what mindsets and opinions, and working out how you can, in a really constructive way, kind of help people shift them. And then being with that same learning mindset, but just being really open to experimentation. So someone said to me the other day, they were like, oh, but we shouldn't experiment, we should just do it. And I'm like, no, everything's an experiment now, like, because everything's changing and you're learning all the time. So just jump in, embrace it, learn, have a hypothesis. It's very scientific. Have a hypothesis, try it out, see what's better or worse, and then iterate and do something else. And before you know it, you'll be having 60% of your organisation like using it and getting great gains out of it. But if you don't start, if you wait for the tech to be perfect or for the complete framework to be built, you're definitely going to be behind because it's moving so fast. So yeah, have a learning mindset and just jump in and experiment and test a few things.
Great, thank you. Jessica?
I think I'd start, I think for us, we had to acknowledge this was a creative tool, and you don't really think of law and creativity, it doesn't quite go together, but we understood this as a creative tool, and we had to think about it differently than other technology that we've used. I think we really did find it helpful to have AI principles and an AI policy. Maybe in a law firm we're a more rules-based organization, but we liked having the rules set out. And there is some regulation. There's an AI Act in the EU coming in, which will actually require, if you want to use AI, to give your people a certain level of digital literacy. And then I think we have really benefited from bottom-up creativity, people using AI, coming up with good ideas, and then us thinking, yeah, that's a good idea, that's not such a good idea. Yeah. We're now moving to the next level, which is to bring a little bit of organization over the top and look at which of these ideas could really drive innovation in our business, productivity in our business, and bring a bit of order and discipline. So I think you need both. The other thing I think is that we've really benefited from rolling this out at enterprise level because some of the best ideas are coming from the least likely places. I've got to say, it's not coming from my level of the organization, probably. The executive committee isn't sitting there thinking, I've got this great idea. Actually, it's much more likely to be the really junior lawyer who is on a deal saying, do you know what, I could do this way better. And so I think that enterprise level rollout has really created that sort of all the right ideas bubbling up, and then we sort of fly in over the top and say, let's do that, and maybe we won't do that one, even if it's fun. So I think it's that bottom up and top down that's really working for us at the moment.
And listening to you, it's about prioritization.
Yes.
Because also it can feel a bit like overwhelming because there's so much you could, if you looked at all of your businesses in the workflow, there's like too many things you could do. So I like that point of having that filter of like, what are we going to prioritize to scale before we try and jump and do everything. Yeah.
And we're not stopping anyone using it at their desk however they wish. I mean, there's no stopping anyone, but it's more prioritizing to scale. Okay, that's a good idea. We can scale this globally. Let's do that globally.
Yeah, very good. Okay, my last question, also off script. I'll give you a second. We're moving really quickly. I can hardly keep up with what's happening. Like every 90 days, there's new stuff that we're working through. You probably feel that same thing too. But if I could give you a magic wand and you could look out into the future and place your order with Microsoft of things that you would like to see that would be very valuable, what would they be? I've heard PowerPoint. We should make PowerPoint work, it turns out, I think, is one of the things. Copilot and PowerPoint should work.
It's because I use PowerPoint a lot.
Yes,
maybe no.
Turns out we agree. And we've got, we're working hard on that. But I just wonder, you, again, both are at the forefront. What are some things that might be on your mind?
So I really think PowerPoint is a big unlock. I think a lot of people will like that. I think for me, it's more about deeper into the core products. For somebody like me, I live and breathe in Outlook, Word, to a more limited extent Excel. I do use Excel, but not so much, and then PowerPoint. And it's being able, if I have to go sort of open something else, I'm less likely to do it. Whereas if it's embedded in the core, then that's where I think so if I could, wave my magic wand, it would be that the prioritization in my inbox is just embedded. So I open it and it says, read this first. This is the most important. These 30 emails, because I live in the world of emails which to 200 people say thanks. This is not a good email. It is a good email. It's great to be polite, but if I've got 1,000 emails to go through, so actually I want somebody to get rid of those for me, and actually I want to focus on what do I actually need to read to make sure that my client has what they want. So that prioritization, like just at the core of Outlook, that would be my wish.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And you're touching on something about like integration.
Yeah.
Like, because again, if you have your Outlook dealing with that and then you're on your chat, I'm like overwhelmed by the amount of different communications that I get, even on something like WhatsApp. Like there's just so much in my personal life, and I have kids as well, and in my professional life, and something to help you kind of integrate that and help you kind of manage the amount of communication and the amount of information all of us get every day.
And this is going to sound, but like it's also screen real estate. Yeah. I mean, like sort of getting to the stage now where I could imagine like a sort of wall of screens around me. But most of the time you don't. So actually the number of different applications you have open is limiting, because if I'm working on documents and I've got, say, 3 documents open and I've got Outlook and I've got Teams, you get to the point where you've just not got enough screen real estate. So I think the more it's embedded, the less you're competing on the screen real estate, which maybe that sounds crazy, but actually I think is a real limiting factor.
It's the switching, isn't it? It's the integration. And then the second magic wand that I'd love is fostering more collaboration. So I know that's what Teams is kind of designed to do, but I think there's much further we could go, and I'm sure you guys are thinking about it, especially with partners outside of your business. So I've said we work with many agencies, so that's who we work with. So how could we create more collaboration through having these tools that talk to each other and support us? I don't know what Satya said about like you're thinking done by the AI and then you work with your colleagues.
Yes.
I would expand that to not just colleagues in my business, but like I'm trying to drive many partnerships and how we could work across businesses and bring ideas together and help unlock unlock those more and give us more time to do the human talking and let the machines tell us where we should be and what we should prioritize and what our agenda should be, and don't forget to talk about this, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm pleased you brought up Teams, because actually we've talked a lot about Outlook, but we really live in Teams these days. Those Teams chats are so powerful, and we probably use Copilot in Teams more than anything else. Recording meetings, you know, if you're on a massive all-party call with lots of people giving you comments, recording it, being able to scroll back to exactly the point in the meeting where Jessica said this, checking that you heard correctly what they wanted. So that's a huge, I mean, Teams is, we love Teams, I've got to say, we love Teams.
Fantastic. Got them started. I don't think we're going to stop there. Let me just use this, thank you. Those were excellent, just to foreshadow kind of where we're headed. I won't tell you, I won't pre-announce anything, but I'll say this. First off, we recognize that in order for Copilot to truly be as valuable as we all hope it will be, it needs to become more personalized. It really needs to learn your job as it works alongside you. And we're doing quite a bit of work there. You'll see more from us. Then it needs to be more embedded into the places that you're working. And I think, Jessica, you spoke to this very well. You know, people shouldn't have to kind of take an extra step, if you will, in Outlook. And so I think you'll prioritize my inbox. We're also just looking to strengthen, you know, in the core apps, PowerPoint and Excel, really working hard. And we think we found the unlock in both of those, and so there'll be more from us. And then some of the things that we showed you today related to agents and this idea of automation. Get ready. In the next 30 days, we'll have quite a bit more here to share with you. Imagine if Copilot could help you take what you did every day and essentially start to automate it into the background so you could focus on what was most important. So many of us do probably 10,000 things a day that we do every day, and we wish Copilot could help us do. So that's a place. Well, thank you, Selena and Jessica. Thank you. Can we have a round of applause for our guests here? And we are so grateful that you are paving the way for all of us, and we're just grateful for your insights today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you
and thanks
very
everybody
much.
for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.